So the Chiefs are going up against a great Broncos defense, and because of that, I think it's time we see some other targets show up and show out for Patrick Mahomes. I'll get into who I think those should be and why, a key player in the trenches returning, plus a look at why the Broncos may be a bit overrated. But first, how about those? All right, before I dive into this Broncos and Chiefs matchup, I think it's worth briefly talking about that wild Thursday night football game that took place last night, because I am not scared of either of these teams. The Ravens are hot on offense, yes, but their passing defense is the worst in the league by a landslide, allowing nearly 300 yards per game, and Kyle Hamilton just went down with an ankle injury in that game. I hope he's all right, but sans Kyle Hamilton, they are even worse. So for everyone saying to look out for the Ravens, acting like the Chiefs didn't beat them week 1, they better pray the Ravens keep putting up 30 points per game, because that's looking like what's going to be needed in order for them to keep winning at times. Meanwhile, the Bengals. Oh, the Bengals. Their offense is playing pretty great ball. Jamar Chase had 11 catches last night for 264 yards and 3 touchdowns. I mean, good God. Burrow threw for over 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions on the night. But man, that defense is horrible. The second to worst red zone defense that allows over 26 points per game is a big reason why they are now 4-6. And with that loss, the Bengals now have just a 24% chance of even making the playoffs. Though to be honest, you can't rule them out just yet as a team that could sneak in as the 7th seed. After all, at the end of the day, who are you going to trust more to get there? The Bengals, the Colts, the Chargers? You let me know in the comments down below who you think it's going to be. I will say, though, for a team and fan base talking about the Bengals that talk so much, yet has accomplished virtually nothing, it was glorious to see them lose yet again. That 6th loss, by the way, that's as many losses the Chiefs have had since Cincy beat KC on December 4th, 2022. So if that isn't karma at its finest, I don't know what is. Another team whose playoff odds drop with a loss this weekend is the Denver Broncos. They have a 72% chance of making the playoffs with a win, but just a 42% chance with a loss. It's obviously not as drastic as the Bengals situation, but this is a very important game for the Broncos. A loss to KC on Sunday will put them at 5-5 on the season and 1-2 in the division, with several teams clawing to fight for the available 3 wildcard spots. That's why the Broncos are not a team to look past this week, even though the Bills are the next game on the Chiefs' radar after this divisional game. Focus one game at a time, and let's see KC hit 9-0 this Sunday first and foremost. The Broncos are an interesting team. They started out with 2 losses to the Seahawks and Steelers, then beat the brakes off the Bucs, followed by wins over the Jets and Raiders. They then lost a 1-score game to the Chargers, dominated the piss-poor Saints and Panthers, and then got demolished by the Ravens in their most recent game last week by a score of 41-10. This Ravens game was a very weird one, where the only touchdown the Broncos scored was actually via a 2-yard pass from Courtland Sutton to Bo Nix. And yes, you heard that right. A wide receiver threw Bo Nix a 2-yard pass for the only offensive touchdown of the day. It was a nice contested 2-yarder. Great job, Bo Nix. But he did manage 223 passing yards. And yes, on the stat sheet, he threw an interception, but it was a horrible drop by Lil Jordan Humphrey, Kadarius Toney style, where the pass got batted up into the awaiting arms of our Darius Washington. Courtland Sutton is clearly Nix's #1 target on the year, catching 36 passes for nearly 500 yards. And that was clearly on display in the Ravens game, as he was targeted 10 times, catching 7 for 122 yards. Thank God. This is also the one team that doesn't seem to get their tight ends super involved, though I'm sure they will try against the Chiefs, which is their definite weakness on defense. All 4 of the Broncos tight ends have a combined 25 catches for 246 yards, which is an average of under 3 catches for just 27 yards through 9 games, so not great. Watch out for Adam Trotman, though, as he did have 4 catches for 85 yards and a score 2 games ago against the Panthers. Overall, the Broncos offense doesn't terrify me. They are averaging just 20.3 points per game, are 25th in yards per game, 15th in rushing yards per game, and 27th in passing yards per game, and are 27th on third downs And if that wasn't enough, they are just 21st in the red zone. However, Bo Nix is improving every week and is probably the second best rookie quarterback right now outside of Jaden Daniels. KC will need to watch out for his scrambles because only Jaden Daniels himself has more scripted runs than Bo Nix. That's right, he has more scrambles than even Lamar Jackson and has nearly 300 rushing yards, which is second on the team, as well as 4 rushing touchdowns and 0 fumbles. That is actually something very underrated about Bo Nix. He's the only quarterback with over 36 rushing attempts that hasn't fumbled at all, aside from Patrick Mahomes. Every other quarterback has fumbled at least 3 times. So while the Broncos may not be the greatest offensive unit in the league, Nix is a dual threat QB who's improving every week. They have some deep threat guys, haven't connected a ton with them. Troy Franklin is one of them, and he's had a couple drops that should have been caught for a score or a deep bomb. And then they also have Marvin Mims. So you can't sleep on those guys, though again, Sutton is going to be the main guy to watch out for. I imagine they put McDuffie on Sutton, but we will see what happens. If I'm Bo Nix, I target any non-McDuffie cornerback out there and just see what happens. Now, I'm also personally not super concerned about the Broncos' run game outside of Bo Nix, really. They are averaging 121 yards a game. That is more of a Bo Nix stat to me than anything. Their main 2 backs in Jaleel McLaughlin and Javonte Williams are averaging under 4 yards a carry. Meanwhile, the Chiefs' defense is limiting opponents to just 3.7 yards per carry, which is second best in the NFL. Denver also has not yet faced a defense like the Chiefs, especially not a defensive coordinator like Steve Spagnuolo. Spags did have a lot of praise for Nix this week, saying he's athletic, dangerous with his feet, but can also throw the ball well. They run a no-huddle quite a bit, and he manages that pretty nicely. Now, Spags, he loves to blitz. He does it almost more than anyone. I think it's like third most or second most in the NFL, and I think that's going to be the thing to watch in this game. Can Spags confuse Bo Nix enough pre-snap and force some costly errors? Maybe a strip sack, an INT, or both would be absolutely fantastic. Against the blitz this year, Bo only has a completion percentage of 56.9%. Not great, but has thrown for 3 touchdowns compared to just 1 interception. The thing is, nobody is better than Spags at disguising where pressure is coming from. I'll just say when they bring pressure, these guys gotta bring Nix down and not lose contain, or he could very well make them pay with his legs. He's had like 4 or 5 scrambles this year go for longer than 20 yards. So please don't let this happen in this game. I am confident in the Chiefs' D-line. Karlaftis has been heating up. They just traded for Joshua Uche. He should see an uptick in snaps. Chris Jones is the best in the business. And it looks like the Chiefs are going to have most of their guys out there on defense. We'll see about Turk Wharton, and we'll get to the injury report at the end of this video. But that's some great news overall for the Chiefs' defense, and I do feel pretty good about them against the Broncos' offense. All right, next up, I wanted to go over my underdog pick'ems with you for this upcoming Broncos and Chiefs game. Underdog is not only the best and easiest place to play fantasy sports, but they are offering up to $1,000 in bonus cash for new signups, plus a free CJ Stroud pick to use in one of your pick'ems. I'm going to start out going with the higher on Mahomes throwing 233.5 passing yards because he's done this in 4 of his last 5 games, and Denver allowed Bryce Young to throw for nearly 230, so give me the higher. Then I'm going to hit the higher on Bo Nix scrambling for more than 24.5 yards. He's done that in 3 of his last 4, and as good as the Chiefs' run defense is against running backs, I think Nix is going to have to try and make some things happen with his legs. Speaking of running backs, I've got Samaje Perine higher on 7.5 receiving yards. He's had 20 or more in the last 4 games in a row, so this basically feels like a gimme. And so does hitting the higher on Kareem Hunt's 18.5 rushing attempts. He's had at least 21 4 games in a row, so why stop now? And finally, I'm hitting the higher on Trent McDuffie recording an assisted tackle. He's done this in 7 of 8 games this season. And with that, I put a quick $20 down for a chance to win 12.1x on my money. And whether you agree or disagree with these, you can support the channel by using code HBTC and make your own picks for any NFL game this weekend. The link to these picks are in the description down below if you want to use them. But again, any new signups will get you up to $1,000 in bonus cash plus that free Stroud pick in the lobby. Now, if we look at the other side of the ball, this is where things get a bit tricky. The Broncos defense is basically elite on paper, though I will explain later why I am still a bit unsure about them, not only their defense, but the Broncos as a whole. Right now, though, the Broncos have the 3rd best scoring defense. They allow just 17.9 points per game. And for comparison, the Chiefs have the 4th best scoring defense, allowing 18.4 points per game. Then, Denver's D is 8th best in the red zone, 5th in rush yards per attempt, and have the second most pressures in the league with 91, only behind the Vikings, and they are tied for second with 31 sacks. You combine that with KC having some issues at the left tackle spot and Patrick Mahomes not being 100% healthy with that ankle, and Andy Reid better come into this game with a fantastic game plan on offense. I think he will, to be clear, but 4 Broncos D linemen have 20 or more pressures on the year, with Jonathan Cooper having 32 and Zach Allen having 44. Denver also has one of the best man-to-man coverage units out there, with arguably the best corner in the league, and Pat Surtain II. However, PS2 doesn't even have the best coverage grade on the team, with those honors going to safety Brandon Jones and cornerback Levi Wallace. With that said, I would still imagine PS2 covers D-Hop quite a bit. Then the rest on defense do what they can to double/limit Kelsey and force others to step up. Don't get me wrong, I think Kelsey and D-Hop will have definite impacts in this game, but what about Xavier Worthy? Can he make a play or two? He's been close to making some in recent weeks, but no cigar. Just this close on so many plays. The stat sheet doesn't even reflect how close it's been. However, I think this is the week Worthy needs to make some plays. We saw him catch a 54-yard bomb for a touchdown against the Chargers. He caught one for 35 against the Ravens, had a receiving touchdown in that game, plus a 21 rushing yard touchdown as well. The team believes in him. He's been targeted 39 times, but he only has 19 receptions. Several of those, by the way, have been very close, deep catches, including one last week that should have been for a score. Look, the Broncos secondary, as I shared, is no joke. Kelsey and Hop will have their hands full at times, and one way to take the attention off of them in the middle of the field, catch a couple deep passes. Then you have Juju Smith-Schuster. He's going to be out once again with the hamstring. So aside from Xavier Worthy deep down the field, and maybe on punt returns if McCole Hardman isn't good to go, he's the next man up there, that leaves Noah Gray and Justin Watson on offense. Watson had a couple of nice games, back-to-back nice games, while Gray has been a little bit more quiet after having a career game a few weeks ago. I anticipate one of, if not both of them, will need to get involved from time to time. Then, of course, I see Kareem Hunt getting fed plenty of carries out there. The Broncos are pretty good against the run, but the Chiefs have one of the best interior trios in the league that will wear you down even more throughout the game, specifically late in the third, early in the fourth. So feed Hunt and get P. Ryan involved out of the backfield. He did catch a touchdown pass last week from Mahomes, and that's going to open some things up basically everywhere else. So while the Broncos defense is no slouch, the Chiefs offense is honestly on absolute fire right now. Through the course of the last 4 games, Mahomes and company are averaging nearly 28 points per game, have scored a touchdown 11 of 13 red zone trips, and are converting third downs at a rate of 61%. These last 4 games have gone so well that KC went from being one of the worst red zone offenses, they were like 29th, to 12th best, are now the 10th best scoring offense, averaging 25.4 points per game, and are the best team on third downs by a landslide. So basically, best of luck, Broncos. Nearly everyone is picking KC to win this game, and I think the Chiefs should win. They are 7.5-point favorites at home, after all, are undefeated, and Mahomes is 12-1 against the Broncos in his career. That one loss did come last year, but Mahomes played through a stomach bug, and I'm chalking that one up as a fluke. Now, some are saying this could be a trap game because the Buffalo Bills are the week after, but the Chiefs know the importance of this game. They know you can't just sleepwalk past a Broncos team that's starting to find some identity with their rookie quarterback, and they know how important going 9-0 is as they continue battling for the first round bye in the playoffs. That's why I'm rolling with the Chiefs getting the W 24-17, and let me tell you something about this Broncos team and why I think they might potentially be on fraud alert. All right, so yeah, the Broncos are 5-4, but let's look at who they have beat so far this season. The 2-7 Panthers, the 2-7 Saints, the 2-7 Raiders, the 3-6 Jets by 1 point, and the 4-5 Bucks, who were hit by the Lions curse. Then here's a list of the teams that the Broncos have lost to so far this season. The 5-3 Chargers, the 6-2 Steelers, the 4-5 Seahawks, and the 7-3 Ravens. Basically, they've beat one team that's been somewhat decent in the 4-5 Bucks, and then they've only lost to one team that's had a losing record. The other 3 teams that they have lost to have been to teams with a winning record, i.e., I think the Broncos are a bit overrated heading into this game, and some of their stats are inflated because the teams that they have played, some of those offenses have been pretty piss poor. And before I get out of here, here's a look at the Chiefs and Broncos final injury report. Juju Smith-Schuster for the Chiefs is the only guy that's out. Then Turk Wharton with the knee. He was a DNP Wednesday, Thursday, limited Friday, and the only player that's listed as questionable. Will he play? I don't know. He's got a knee contusion, but we shall see. Another defensive lineman who's trending upwards and I think is going to play is going to be defensive end Mike Dana with the pec injury. He's missed several games, trended up a little bit last week, but was a full go Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, so I think he does play. Then another defensive end, George Karlaftis, trended up, limited, full, and I think he's fine with the abdomen/hip injury he got banged up in last week. And then another player who was limited Wednesday, but full go Thursday, Friday is running back Kareem Hunt. I think Wednesdays have been like a veteran rest day for him, so he's good to go. And then a player who did not play last week, but will be playing this week is cornerback Najee Johnson. I reached out to him. Hey man, how you feeling? He said, I'm good, ready to go. He has no designation on the injury report, so he should be fine. Of course, Patrick Mahomes, we are on ankle watch with him. He's not going to be as mobile with the ankle injury he aggravated further last week, but he initially sustained in that Raiders game. Then Derek Nottie with the triceps, he's fine. He's going to be good to play. All in all, looks pretty good. The only other player I need to mention is McCole Hardman with the shoulder. Limited Wednesday and Thursday, but was a full go Friday and should be back returning punts and kicks for the team this Sunday, which is great news. Then for the Broncos, they have 2 players out, 1 questionable. De'Laren Turner-Yell, he's a safety with a knee. He's going to be ruled out, but he hasn't played any snaps for the team, so that's a depth piece guy. And then Drew Sanders, linebacker Drew Sanders, was recently brought back, or his window to return was opened up. He was limited all week. He's going to be out. But then center Luke Wattenberg with the ankle was limited Wednesday, full go Thursday, Friday, questionable to play. We will see if he does or not. But with all that being said, there you go. There's some of the keys to victory, all the standout stuff I think needs to happen in order for the Chiefs to get this W. But let me know your thoughts on all that in the comments down below, as well as your score prediction. And until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?